YouTube, what is up? I am Michael James, and this is Michael James Fine Art. Today we have a time-lapse version of Into the Mist, a watercolor painting that we created live on stream, and it was a lot of fun. It came out wonderful. If you are into the channel, if you're enjoying what we're doing, enjoying what we're showing, enjoying what we're making, please smash that like and sub button down below to help feed that YouTube algorithm. A link to the full version will be in the description down below. If you're interested, please do go check that out. Hit that like, hit that sub. We have a lot more streams and live art coming your way. Without any further ado, let's get right into the video. But most importantly, stay healthy, stay happy, and never stop creating. Let's get it. All right, Into the Mist was created for an Inktober prompt. The prompt, of course, was mist. I started with a nice light pencil drawing to make sure I knew the proportions and the figure was placed where I wanted her to be. And then I went right in with a wet on wet watercolor. I sprayed the entire paper down quite a bit, made sure the whole thing was very damp, and then started layering in values for the groundwork and the grass and the marsh textures. I really wanted the watercolor to work in its natural, transparent manner for this piece because I wanted her to feel like she was almost disappearing into the mist, walking away. It was a very cloudy, misty day on this marsh, and it just felt like the transparency would work perfectly with this piece. So I was very focused on letting the watercolor do what it was going to do, while I wanted to make sure the values and shapes were accurate at the same time. Here I went in and colored the figure with just a couple marks. I wanted all the edges to be very, very soft on this piece, again, as it's shrouded in mist and she's almost walking away from you. So I very much wanted there to feel like an atmospheric perspective was in play here, and it was almost separating you from the figure as far as there was actual particles in between. I go back in and start adding some real good values, making sure the figure feels grounded. I really wanted to establish her position on the page. That's why I went in with these nice dark tones and started touching up the foreground and background a bit more around the figure. I go back in with some real nice dark values, working light to dark as you do with watercolors. So you just keep building up the values and the tones, continuing to make some very sharp marks in the foreground and some very loose, soft edges in the background. This was a very fun experimental piece. Again, during Inktober, we've done a lot of good work with some fun prompts, that's for sure. This was definitely one of our personal favorites, as it lent itself to our sort of impressionistic realism style, where we could make some fun marks but keep it on the realism side with some fun brushwork. We even went in and scratched the paper with some toothpicks to keep that grassy, marshy look. I go back in and dial in some of the figure to make sure it reads properly and disappearing into the mist here. I was going to leave her dress completely white, but it almost felt like it could be established much more and improve the piece. So I went ahead and did that, added some nice values to the dress, some texture, and again, keeping all the edges very soft and loose and letting the transparency of the watercolor do what it does. Here we go back in with some really nice dark values to again just establish her position on the paper. Continuing to build up the values in the marsh so that it continues to recede into space, much like she is working away from us. And then dialing in the foreground details just ever so slightly. The final touches on a piece are always the most fun. You can feel yourself getting close. Start putting in some real nice darks, finishing your edges. Seeing what will make it a better piece, what will make it a worse piece, and what will just be noodling or not adding to the overall quality of the piece is a big part at this stage. So you're really studying the piece and seeing what will help, what won't help. The piece is then complete when you're not sure what you would do to make it better. You can keep adding to it, but if it's not going to improve the overall feeling of the piece, it's complete. You can always come back to it later if you have new ideas. But if your values are there, your shapes are correct, your proportions are where you want them to be, you can call it done. Here I go in with a white gouache to get a little bit more value shift in the dress and texture on it because it sits on top of the watercolor nicely and kind of adds a nice lace soft feel to it, which is exactly what I was going for. It also allows you to get some real nice whites back into watercolor if you've missed some areas that need to be a nice bright value. So again, some final touches here, including whites. You always want to wait for your highlights so you can really nail their shape and location and it all reads properly. The hair dried really nice and delicately where I didn't even go back into it after the initial wash. I loved the atmospheric perspective around it, almost like you're looking directly through mist. Here, a couple subtle accents just to fix the dress and really add in that shoulder strap. So again, it feels very much like it's hugging the figure and on the actual figure. Softening up all the edges, final touches, so that the dress, because it's white, because we're in mist, you're really not going to see any of the edges if its background is white as well. So we really wanted that edge to disappear. We're keeping it cool because again, the atmospheric perspective is essentially looking through moisture in the air. So while the marshes are nice browns, there's still a lot of cool presence in the air. Cool being blues. Now really getting rid of that edge of the dress there so we can finally see what else needs to be fixed and finalized, as our whitest spots have to come right through the figure. We were seeing a little too much detail in the figure, so we really came in with some nice whites and softened a lot of that dress out, which really added a nice feel to the motion and the flowing as well as the mist that we were going for. The final small marks, final edge cleanups, final value touches, little brushes at this point, little marks, little value changes, nothing too extreme. This was a very fun piece. We enjoyed it from start to finish. We came into it with a good plan, with a good goal, and we were able to achieve the feel of mist, achieve the feel of her location where she is. We were able to achieve the prompt in that it was mist. It has an atmospheric perspective. We go ahead, we sign it when we're happy with where it should be. Signature is part of the composition, so we do sign it and then put a couple more marks in to make sure it's complete, values and all. And once it's done, we call it a day and on to the next piece. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I appreciate all the support. Be sure to smash that like and sub button if you have watched this far. I can't thank you enough. We will be back with some live videos, more time-lapse videos, more tips, tricks, and always lots of good vibes. Until next time, stay healthy, stay happy, and never stop creating.